Everybody a second to hop on here, and thanks to everybody hopping on. So the big thing I want to talk about too, I just started this Facebook group, and I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity to just give out and provide content and value in another form other than Telegram, because Telegram is always going, especially in our VIP group. We have our VIP chat, and it's pretty hard to keep up with. So in the Facebook group, just a heads up, you can post in there. So your posts do have to get approved by me, and so that just keeps people from more or less, spamming the group. But that being said, I think it's going to be a good way, especially for people that are just in the free Telegram, to still connect. Because when we had a free chat, it's always getting bombarded with spam and all kinds of other things. So this is a good way to still keep it going, but also to stay connected with everybody. So if you have any questions, you want me to look over some pairs, feel free to ask in the question box. And that'll be a good way to communicate. And then, I'll be happy to go over. But mostly what I'm looking at and what I want to look at is the dollar CAD, euro dollar, and then especially pound pairs. So the pound has had a huge, massive sell-off. And man, it looked like the dollar we're gonna see some weakness, but it never came through, right? So I mean, it looked like for instance, right? So on GBPUSD, this is a big thing I want to look at. We had, yet another false breakout here. So you can see this huge move upwards, and then boom, right? So we're at this massive zone right here that you can see by this gray box. And, whether or not this holds will be a big indicator of what happens with the pound in the future. So also we had euro pound, huge breakout today. So, this is very, very big reversal for the pound. But at the same time, I really don't want to rule the pound out. I think we could have a lot of movement in the future, especially once this thing tops out. That could sound crazy because of how bearish these sell-offs were. But, like here in pound Swiss, for example, we just made a new low here. I think this will potentially be, let me put it this way. I think we'll see a lot of, could be a fake out move here, right? Regardless of if it is or not, we're still here at new lows. So now let's take a look at dollar pairs. And again, if you have any questions, just hit me up in the chat box. I'm happy to answer them. Before I do that, actually, let's take a look at GJ as well. And so GJ has been one of my favorite pairs to trade, but right now, man, this looks like a pretty big sell-off. I'm going to remove this here. And just if we're going by this trend line, straight up classic trend line break and retest, and then potentially a move lower. What's up, Mark? Thanks for hopping on, man. And potentially looking at these lower levels here. So a lot of times when I see something like this, a move like where we're in, so we have a lower high, lower high, lower high. I'll be looking for the spot to see where exactly that we bounce back from here, right? So I do, as crazy as it sounds, I would like to think we get a bounce in the pound, because it was before today. Well, today and yesterday, it was looking pretty somewhat bullish at least. So so that being said, right now though, I would wait to get some sort of signal before hopping back in. So some sort of once we start to carve out a bottom or something that looks a little bit more, sustainable, I think that'll be the best way to go about it. So, so we got a couple more people hopping on. Yeah, thanks for getting on here. Welcome. So this is a great look here in pound CAD. And so new lows here. So the thing is, out of all the pound pairs that I'm looking at where potentially we could have a move higher, and so you can see we broke out of this descending triangle here. I think we could get a move higher in pound CAD. I'll tell you why right now, because we got to look at the dollar CAD. And so when I see weakness in one pair, typically I look across the board and I'm like, okay, so where's the next opportunity going to be? So I shared this chart on. What's up, James? Thanks for hopping on, man. I shared this chart and I've been talking about it in our weekly outlook video, in our VIP group for sure, and with my accelerator traders. And man, so let me break this the way this looks down for you, because I know I have a lot of lines going all different ways right now. But in this pound CAD setup here, we have a classic textbook descending triangle. So in a descending triangle, and a lot of times when you see these formations, before we get the big push to the upside, we get a false breakdown. And right here, the false breakdown we have is, you can see at the bottom of this triangle, one push down here, a lot of people started selling and it was a big fake out. And so now we have a breakout of this descending triangle, right? So you can see how price broke out here and immediate rejection by this yesterday's candle. And now what looked like a bit of a fake early in the morning, all that you can see by these wicks here, all the buyers came in and bought up. And now we're going to retest these highs here. As soon as we break this, you know, that's going to be the last thing that pretty much, to me, confirms the fact that, you know, this is indeed going to be a full-on breakout. And so the last thing I'd like to, and if you are taking notes, and this is what I teach in my VIP Academy and my accelerator program that helps people get funded, finding one potential setup that is a very huge opportunity in the market, and then being like, all right, hey, okay, so where else can I capitalize on CAD weakness? Because right here, because of this breakout, that tells me that, you know, we're going to have some serious CAD weakness in the future, because once we have these descending triangles, the textbook definition of a breakout of them is that they retrace to the full extent of the actual breakout, of the actual triangle itself. So that, if we're at 132 right now, that is 142. So like, that's 1,000 pips. You know, we're not going to be there by tomorrow, but I would be willing to bet by the end of the year, we could see that in this dollar CAD. So that being said, and this is a big strategy that I teach in much more detail in my training academy and in the accelerated program, but finding these setups and then going like, hey, okay, so I found this potential play on US dollar CAD. Where can I go and look and find potential CAD setups, right? So here's New Zealand CAD. We make a zone here, right where we're at. And it seems like price is respecting this level to a certain degree. Now, for me, I would need a better setup than this to really get super aggressive here. But so on I go to look at other CAD pairs. I already talked about pound CAD now, and we caught a good 100 pip trade here in CAD JPY earlier this week. So we have a big level of resistance, 1, 2, 3, and then a push to the downside. And so now we can just go in further. And man, this looks like a good potential shorting opportunity for CJ. So also, if you guys see a potential head and shoulders setup here, I know James likes head and shoulders and spotting these patterns, and this definitely looks like one, right? So just to show you, I can draw it out this way, and that would be as crude as it looks, a pretty textbook head and shoulders if it plays out. So so that's one of the main strategies that I like to teach, is to find a potential setup and then look across the board, where else can these setups duplicate themselves? Because if I go over here to dollar CAD and I'm like, okay, so we have a breakout here, but I missed the entry on it. And now we're already rallying, right? Because here I'd want to wait till we got some sort of dip before I got in here. So maybe the setup's not quite there in dollar CAD, but where else is it going to be at? And so then you can look across the board here and find these different setups, whether it's against like CAD JPY I just shared, or I potentially think that pounds CAD, despite this massive sell-off here, is going to be a huge buying opportunity, because you can see how incredibly oversold we are. And let me know if this is making sense to you in the comments. You can see how incredibly oversold we are. Here we are on the 4-hour. Here we are on the daily chart at this massive level of support, and this is what that same level looks like on a weekly chart. So, you know, from here, it looks like we could potentially move a little bit lower before we hit. We also have we're breaking down here on our daily chart. So the big thing to watch here on pound CAD is whether or not this level holds, or also another thing I'd like to point out too is pound Aussie. Huge move lower. And now we're approaching this 127% extension, but it looks like we're finding some support here. So once this rounds out, the pound, it'll be super important to see how we finish the week, especially with the weekly close. But the biggest thing, and I think that the best place to look right now for a setup is in the dollar pairs. And, you know, like here's Kiwi dollar. We haven't had quite the setup sell-off here that we've had in, say, Euro USD, or here's Aussie USD. Now this was huge rejection. And on the daily chart, and all this technical analysis, that the way I do things is a little bit different than a lot of mentors and traders, but it's also very simplified and by the book, and is a very easy way to remember how to trade these particular setups. So what we have here is what I call a throwover. So you can see we have price in this wedge, a breakout, and then a failure here, and then a break back inside. So it's a super bearish signal. And actually, after it finished this live call, probably we'll send out a trade to my VIP traders on this. But you can see how this is that rejection. This is the big wick. If I go in on the 4-hour, you can really tell. Here's the throwover, push higher, and then a breakdown. And you can see we kind of dribble around in here for a minute. Big wick, and then one more big wick. And so this right here, that is a huge sign of a potential rejection in the market, and the fact that we're going to more than likely move lower. I mean, it'll be one to watch going into Asian session. And then later on, tomorrow, Friday's going to, a lot of days, Friday's a lot more chill and not as much going on, but I can definitely see with these massive moves that happened today, which is why I wanted to do this video, which is why I think Friday's going to be big. So if we could get some sort of pullback into this area here, that could be a really good setup. But you can see now it's already moving lower. So if you're watching this and you're looking for a trade to take right now, I'd get short on Aussie USD with a stop around 1780, 1770, 1780, and targeting, you know, if you just wanted to get in for a short amount of pips, 7,200. And I think that will be a great setup for you. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask in the chat box. And but those are the main things I wanted to go over today. And I wanted to, you know, for the people that are here, that are in the Facebook group, feel free to comment, share your posts, share what you're looking at in the market. And the more that we can get activity in there, the better it's going to be to get the community vibe. And it's going to be a lot less chaotic than Telegram, which is a super big, will be, let me put it this way, Telegram could get kind of confusing. So this will be a great way to do it. And so yeah, somebody asked how much is VIP US dollars. So we have a couple different, you can get signals for $79 a month, or our lifetime access to my training program, all the strategies that I use today. Feel free to message me on Telegram if you like, or on Facebook, and I can give you the rundown and share the link. I'll share the link right here. And the full access, lifetime access is $2.99. So it's about the cheapest deal you'll ever find. Hey, what's up, Mark? And yeah, I think so. There you go. Check it out. So I think Aussie New Zealand, as far as that goes, like I entered it earlier today and it kept on moving higher, but I do think that it could be we're at some good resistance here, and yeah, man, I mean, between those two, between the trades that I just looked at, though, I think man, honestly, this looks a lot like a breakout to me, to be honest, Mark. So I'd look to buy it here. I'd wait to see how Asian session pans out, but this looks like a buy, man. But I think there's better setups out there, to be honest. So we have a downtrend. Clearly, you can see here, and then we have a breakout. So what that means is, you know, this broke the trend. Now we're having a retest of the backside of this trend line. We're retesting this zone here, and I think that could push us a lot higher, depending on what happens again with Aussie US dollar, which still moving lower. So what I would do, Mark, is I would try to find a good entry, try to find some sort of bounce on like a 15-minute chart here. You can see we just got a move higher, and then a nice retest of the zone. Like if you looked up support breakdown and then a retest, that's exactly what you would have. So I think right now this is one of the best setups you'll find. And honestly, as soon as we get off that, I'll be sending a signal out to the group. And yeah, and that's a great way to find trades though. So like, but using that logic, Mark. So we broken down out of this setup here. If you're looking at Aussie New Zealand, you can see, I think this would be a buy because we had a breakout and a retest. You can already see how we're forming a base right now. And within on the other side of that trend line. So you can think of this trend line as a massive divider between the sellers down here and then the buyers that are going to be pushing us higher here, right? So so I think a buy position on Aussie New Zealand in my position, but I could be wrong for sure. So trade with your own discretion, and I go into more detail about trading breakouts, trading throwovers in our training academy for sure. So and just to get back at, so take a look at this, and this is the last thing I'll cover. Here is our breakout. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, thanks for the question too, man. I'm happy to help, man. That's what I'm here for. And if you have any questions, like you can draw up a chart and share it in the Facebook group, and I promise I will look at it and give you my feedback and let you know what I think. So that's one of the best places to get a hold of me, especially within this Facebook group. If you have any questions about a certain pair, so now using this logic about Aussie New Zealand, let's take a look at dollar CAD here, and it's just a breakout on a much bigger scale, right? So you can see, and it's a little messy. I'll remove this line here. So you can see this triangle, you can see this big wedge, and you can see how we broke out of it right here, and then a retest. And you can see this bullish candle is the breakout candle, rejection, and now we're breaking out. And like I said, I think we're going to go much higher. So doing breakout trades, and I go into more detail about this in our VIP group about off of these zones, right? So you can see how we have this zone here, breakout, retest that same zone, and then that is where you know where your entry's at. So so if you have any questions about that or about how to find entries, for sure that's one of the best ways to go about it. So yeah, does anybody have any questions? Thanks for the other people that hopped on here. We got Jamon, Alexa, Sean. Sean's in my accelerator program, if it's the same Sean. So glad you're on here, dude. Shoot me a message, man. And we have Marcio, Todd, and yeah, so, and a few more people that just hopped on here. So let me know if you have any questions, and if not, going into Friday, tomorrow, be careful. Fridays can always be tricky, but I think these potential setups here, Pound CAD, Euro CAD could definitely be a good one as well. Yeah, no problem. So we have a couple questions. No problem, Alexa, anytime, for real. And Mark, so I used to use Bollinger Bands, but for me, and obviously it's all personal preference, but it just had too much going on the charts for my taste. But there's a reason people use them, is that they can be very useful, but it just never caught on with me. I prefer more straightforward Fibonacci's, trendline trading, using RSI and using fundamental analysis, developing a market bias, and trading around that bias. So that's what I would really recommend, and that's just what works for me, though. So whatever works for you or that you vibe with, especially if you're a newer trader, I would recommend trying other different methods, but don't have too much going on at once. I tell my VIP traders this all the time. Don't get too busy on your charts, because it can become a super big distraction. So and take your time and find out what works. I'm finding the Fibonacci and naked charts to be great. Yep, awesome, Alexa. And really, that 61.8% retracement is one of the biggest Fibonacci levels out there. So remember that. They call it the golden fib. So that being said, thanks for hopping on, everybody. I appreciate you. We're going to have a set schedule going live in this group. So be sure to pay attention to that. I will share that in the Facebook group, and also an email and text. And thanks for hopping on. So that being said, I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the Facebook group. Peace.